Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm gonna read Cranford chapter 4, Poor Peter. I have often noticed that everyone has some little meanness. Miss Mary Jenkins was mean about candles. In the winter afternoons, she used to knit for hours just by firelight, and though candles were brought in with our tea, we never burned more than one of them. One evening, I remember this meanness quite annoyed me. Miss Mary had fallen asleep, and it was too dark for me to sew even in front of the fire. When mother brought in the light candle and tea, Miss Mary woke up with a sad little jam. She had been dreaming about her early life, I think, because all through tea she talked about her childhood. Then afterwards she went to her room to fetch some old family letters. I wanted more light by which to read them, but Miss Mary still refused to light a second candle. The earliest letters were two yellow packets tied together. Letters between my dear parents before their marriage in July 1774, said Miss Jenkins writing. The rector of Cranford was about 27 at that time, and Miss Mary's mother was not yet 18. The only writing of the letters I had seen before was a grand sermon in the style of Dr. Johnson. So it was strange to read these fresh young letters from him, full of love for his Molly. The girl's letters were rather different, all about wedding clothes and a white silk dress she desperately wanted. We must ban them, I think, said Miss Mary doubtfully. No one will care for them when I have gone. One by one, she dropped the letters into the fire. The room was light enough now. The other letters were written between about 1775 and 1805. There were some sweet letters between the mother and grandmother when Deborah was born. There were later letters from the rector, full of Latin words. There were badly spelled replies from his wife about beautiful little Maddie. And there was some letter from grandfather about a son. How strange, I thought, that I never heard of this son before. Then we came to Miss Jenkins' letter. It took us 2 nights to read them all. The longest ones were written during a visit to Newcastle upon Tyne early in 1805. Some people were expecting Napoleon Bonaparte to land there, and Miss Jenkins was clearly alarmed. It was a frightening time, my dear, explained Miss Maddie. I used to wake up at night and think I heard the French entering Cranford. My father, I remember, wrote a lot of sermons against Napoleon. The son, Peter Ali Jenkins, poor Peter, Miss Maddie began to call him, was at school at Shrewsbury by this time. The rector wrote in Latin to his boy, and the boy wrote back careful, short letters with notes to his mother at the end. Mother dear, do send me a cake. Soon, poor Peter was in trouble at school. There were letters to his father apologizing for some wrongdoing and a note to his mother. My dearest mother, I'll be a better boy. I will, indeed. But please don't be ill because of me. I'm not worth it. After this note, Miss Maddie was crying too much to speak. He got up and took it to her room in case it was burnt by mistake. Poor Peter, she said. He was always in trouble. He was too fond of fun and jokes, poor Peter. Peter won no honors at school, it seemed. He was brought back to Cranford to study at home. He was a kind boy in many ways, said Miss Maddie. Like dear Captain Brown, he was always ready to help any old person or child. But he did like playing jokes and making fun. Once I remember he dressed himself as a lady visitor to the town and asked to see the rector who gives such wonderful sermons. My father believed him, I mean her, and offered her all his sermons about Napoleon. Then he made Peter copy them all out for her instead of going fishing. How I wanted to laugh. Did Miss Jenkins know about these jokes? I asked. Oh no, I was the only one who knew. Peter used to say that the old ladies in the town needed something to talk about. But sometimes he didn't tell me, and at last a terrible sad thing happened. Miss Maddie went to the door and opened it. There was no one there. She rang the bell and told mother to go across the town for some eggs. I locked the door when you've gone, mother. You are not afraid to go, are you? Oh no, madam. Jam Ham will be proud to come with me. Miss Maddie's eyes widened. She was still a little worried by the idea of mother having a follower. I will poke out the candle, my dear, she said to me as soon as we were alone. We can talk just as well by firelight. Well, it was a quiet spring day, I remember. Deborah had gone away for a fortnight and my father was visiting some sick people in the town. Peter, it seems, went up to Deborah's room and dressed himself in her old dress and shawl and bonnet, and he made the pillow from her bed into, are you sure? We locked the door, my dear, into a little baby with a long white clothes, and he walked up and down outside and nursed the pillow just like a baby, and talked to it in the way people do to babies. Then, oh my dear, my father came back and saw a crowd of people looking into our garden. At first, he thought they were looking at his flowers. Then he saw Peter. His face went white. He was so angry. He tore the clothes off Peter's back and threw the pillow into the crowd, and in front of everyone, he beat Peter with his walking stick. My dear, that boy's joke on that spring day broke my mother's heart and changed my father forever. Peter stood still until my father had finished. Then he walked slowly into the house, put his arms around my mother, and kissed her. Before she could speak, he had gone. We couldn't understand it. She sent me to ask my father what had happened. Tell your mother I have beaten Peter, he said. When I told her, my pretty little mother sat down, very white. Then we began to search the house. It was a big old house, and we searched and searched. Peter, dear, my mother called softly. It's only me. Then her cry grew louder. Peter, Peter, where are you? The afternoon went on. The servants joined the search. My father sat with his head in his hands. When it was nearly dark, he got up. Molly, he began, I did not mean all this to happen. As he looked at my mother's poor white face, tears came into his eyes. And then she took my father's great hand in her little one and led him along from room to room through the house and garden everywhere. I sent someone to Mr. Holbrook to ask if Peter was at his house. Mr. Holbrook was Miss Poole's cousin, you know, and he had been very kind to Peter and had taught him how to fish. But Peter wasn't there or anywhere in Cranford. Where was he? I asked. He had gone to Liverpool. There was Waltham and some of King's ships were at the mouth of River Mersey. They were glad to have fine, tall boy like Peter. The captain wrote to my father and Peter wrote to my mother. Those letters are here somewhere too. We lit the candle and found them. The captain's letter told the parents to come to Liverpool immediately if they wished to see their boy, and Peter's letter begged his mother to come. Mother, we may go into battle. I hope we shall, and that we will defeat those French. I must see you first, though. But my father and mother arrived too late, said Miss Matty. The ship had gone. We sat silently for a while. Peter's ship went to Mediterranean, Miss Matty told me at last, and later he was sent to India. Her mother had never been strong, and she died less than a year after he went away. And the day after her death, yes, the day after, a packet arrived for her for India from her poor boy. It was a large, soft, white shawl. Deborah took it into my father, and he held it in his hands and said, she always wanted a shawl like this. We'll bury her in this. Peter walked like that. On the day of my mother's funeral, Deborah told me that she would never marry and leave my father, even if she had 100 offers of marriage. This wasn't very likely, of course. I don't think he had one, but it was good of her to say it. She was a wonderful daughter. She did everything for my father. Did Mr. Peter ever come home? Yes, once. My father took him into every house in Cranford. He was so proud of him in his uniform. Deborah used to smile. I don't think we ever laughed again after my mother's death and say she was not needed anymore. And then I asked. Then Peter went to sea again. And after a while, my father died, and we had to come to his small house with just one servant instead of four. Poor Deborah. And Mr. Peter, oh, there was some great war in India, and we've never heard of him since then. I believe he is dead, though sometimes when all the house is quiet, I think I hear him coming up the street. But the sound always goes past and Peter never comes. Is that mother? I'll go, my dear. No, I don't need a candle. Was his mother? I asked when she returned. Yes, I heard such a strange noise when I opened the door. Where? In the street, just outside. It sounded like talking. No, kissing. Okay, that is Cranford chapter 4. Poor Peter. Thank you. Bye bye.